No. Butterfield.
Recording.
We'll call the Willmar City Council meeting for Thursday, May 27th to order. This is a special meeting. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin.
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Here.
Osmus.
Here.
Butterfield. O'Brien.
Here.
Osk.
Here.
Davis. Here. Plowman.
Here.
Nelson.
Here.
8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag, United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we have the agenda in front of us. Is there a motion to accept the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. City Administrator Grammons.
I just want to note that Councilor Butterfield has arrived on the, through the internet.
Okay. Sounds great. Councilmember Butterfield, are you in favor of accepting the agenda as presented?
Yes.
Okay. The first item on the agenda is to receive applications for Zoning Appeals Board and Planning Commission. This is for information only. Please review that, and we'll be acting on that at our next meeting. Next is consider request to approve vacation of city easements. Mr. Ramstead. Dr. Ramstead.
Mr. Mayor, council members, before you is a petition that has been made by Dunick and Development for the city of Willmar to vacate all of its drainage and utility easements on the property legally described as lots 2, 3, 4, and 5, Block 1, the Waterview Business Park. The petition has been reviewed and approved as to form by the city engineer and city attorney and my staff. The Waterview Business Park is an old minor subdivision plat that will no longer be in use and will be superseded by a new survey and city-approved easements to accommodate the approved development of the Preserve and 24th multifamily housing development, which was approved earlier this year. All property owners living within 600 feet of the above-described property have been notified of the public hearing. Also, a public notice was posted in the West Central Tribune in advance of the 10-day notification window. Staff are seeking a motion to introduce the resolution approving the vacation of city easements within lots 2, 3, 4, and 5, Block 1, Waterview Business Park, and set a public hearing for June 7th, 2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the vacation of city easements to set a public hearing for June 7th at 6:02 p.m. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. If I read this correctly, we're not removing anything, it's being replaced in the other one, correct?
That's correct.
I just remember from our stormwater tour that that was an area that's complicated as far as it's draining back and forth, and so I just wanted to make sure that we weren't losing any potential issues with stormwater, or that we were protecting potential issues with stormwater on that property.
That's absolutely correct. A new survey will be presented to the city, and it will be distributed to WMU, the city engineer's office, my own building department, and fully vetted and with new easements and to address stormwater.
Thank you.
Yep.
Additional comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield. You're on mute.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That motion passes. Next, we have consideration authorization to amend contract with LSE Architects for the Event and Recreation Center. I see that Rob is not here. Are you handling that, Mr. Grammets?
Mr. Mayor, that is correct. What you have before you is a $9,700 increase to LSE contracts. It was initiated, as you remember, near the end of the delay or placing on hold of the architectural design of the facility. that the committee rushed and said, let's get this project going, and that's all fine. It had been delayed for 5 months, and they were, ready to go. But when we went back and asked the architects to get going, we also asked them to break the project down into smaller increments with alternates and cut it up in pieces so that when it got bid, we could pick and choose which ones we wanted. And that created $9,700 worth of additional labor on their part at our request. And so this is following up on that extra cost that they incurred due to our asking for breaking it out into alternates and cutting it up into more pieces than just one big project like they had already designed, in essence.
Is there a motion to approve this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Additional discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus,
Aye.
Butterfield,
Aye.
O'Brien,
Aye.
Osk,
Aye.
Davis,
Aye.
Plowman,
Aye.
Nelson,
Aye.
Fagerly.
Aye.
8 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes as well. Next, we have an exciting opportunity in front of us, and Ms. Hemmenover is with us with Baker Tilly. And this evening, we have the opportunity to have a discussion and potentially move forward with a candidate that we would like to move forward for negotiations. Tonight is a lot of work has gone into making tonight happen, and a lot of thanks to Baker Tilly for the work that you've done, our city staff for participating in the interviews and providing feedback, our constituents who have also provided us a lot of feedback. And my goal this evening is that we would have consensus on moving somebody forward. And once we have that consensus, if someone would want to make a motion to move that forward, that would be appreciated not only by myself, but also by Baker Tilly. Additionally, it should be noted that both of our candidates are watching us this evening, and so they are eager, and I won't steal any more thunder of yours, but it's an exciting opportunity here in Willmar, and we certainly have a tremendous opportunity to really leap forward and do some good work. So with that, Ms. Hemmenover.
Can I ask a question first?
Councilman O'Brien.
So are we going to be doing a preference for tonight? Are we, for a preference, which one would we be adding? Would it be A or B? Or is that what we're going to be doing tonight?
That would be the goal, is that we come to consensus, and then if a motion was forwarded, then that motion would give the authority to Baker Tilly. And if we want to set up a committee to work with Baker and Tilly to negotiate that contract, then we would do that this evening as well. And then the approval process would actually come at the next meeting once the formal contract was drafted by our city attorney working with Baker Tilly to accept that. Okay. So the accepting of the position would come after the offer was made and an agreement was made, and then the council accepted that agreement.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Patty.
Mayor, Chair, it's an honor to be here tonight to talk about the two candidates. I had an opportunity to speak to both of them today. The reason that I'd like to follow up on candidates is to make sure that they are interested in the position, see if they have some additional questions. Now, of course, I followed up with both of them after the interview to see if they did have any specific questions. Today, they were both very excited to still be considered for the position. I did ask each of them if they had any reservation, and they said no. They were both very pleased with the process and how it's gone through from the beginning to the very end. They were very complimentary of the council on how welcoming you were to both candidates. They liked the process. They liked to be able to meet and greet with you at the very beginning of the process. You also had an opportunity to sit in on the interviews with the staff and with the business leaders. And they really appreciated meeting with staff and the business leaders too. They also liked the opportunity to meet and greet community in the afternoon. They had the opportunity to meet with the superintendent, and they were very thrilled that he came down personally to introduce himself. And then they had the formal interview with the council at the end. I did ask each of them, I said, if you were offered the job to move forward with negotiations, would you say yes? And both of them, without any reservation, said yes. Most importantly, that I do ask each of the candidates too, it's not only them, is I want to make sure it's a good fit for them and their family. And I did ask, you know, are you and your family ready to come to Willmar? And both of them said yes, they would. Now, as the mayor said, as you all of you are aware, their timelines are a little bit different on when they would be able to start. So, I mean, you're looking at least 45 days out at the earliest because they're both coming from out of state. They would have to, of course, do some possibly selling of a home, and Mr. Brooks is still in his obligation, so his would be a little bit longer than that. But this is something that we were all fully aware of from the very beginning of the process. You have two strong candidates in front of you. They do bring different qualities to Willmar, and I shared with them that they are both very good quality candidates. And I said, the council has a big decision. And I said that the fun thing about this is they've got two good candidates that they have to decide. And I said, one of you, I'm going to have to make the call and say that you're possibly not going to be employed. Both of them said, we understand it was a fair process, but they, of course, both want the job. So you were given a lot of information through the beginning of the process to the very end. You were given their resumes, cover letters, questionnaires, and a video before you actually called them in for an interview. From there, we had a Zoom interview, which was a public meeting, and it was taped. So the community had the opportunity to also view it. From there, we then had them also take an assessment, their management and leadership assessment. We also did criminal background checks and reference checks. And both of them came out very well on all of that information. And then, of course, they had the all-day interview. So you have a lot of information in front of you. It was very important that after the last interview, that you had the opportunity to sit down and evaluate all of that information, because you also had a survey that we asked the staff and the business people that interviewed these two candidates to also give their input. We gathered that information and presented that to the council so they had their input also. And we felt that that was really critical for you to have that. So tonight, I really think it's important to, as council, to talk about the strengths that you liked in these candidates. And hopefully you can come to some kind of consensus on if there is a candidate that you would like to bring forward. Mayor?
Thank you for those comments. Councilmember Butterfield has a previous commitment, so he's going to have to step off. And so I'm going to start with him. But I think what I'd like to do is I'd like to go around to each council member and call on you each individually, make some comments. And again, up to this point, we've the only person that has slipped up in this process has been the mayor in making positive comments about our candidates. And I made a little bit of a negative comment at the last meeting, if you recall, and I apologize at that time, and I'll do that again now. But let's try to keep it positive and the strengths that they bring and what they can bring to our community. And then we'll try to start and work through that and bring some consensus as to the direction that we want to move forward. So I would like to see that consensus. Once we have what I feel is some form of consensus, I will look for a motion that someone would wish to make. And once that motion is made, we can act on that motion. So with that, I'm going to start with Councilmember Butterfield, and then I'll start to my right, and then go around. So, Councilmember Butterfield.
There it is. Mic finally worked. Yeah, I'm pretty impressed with both of them. I think Dana brings a little bit more for our downtown to the table with what the city has been trying to do there. And Tyler, I believe he's going to be a go-getter. So, I mean, both of them are pretty good on their knees there. But making a choice, I'd probably lean with Dana with a little bit more experience.
Rick?
I was impressed by both of them. One is fresh out of the military, and the other one's been working in the government field, the city. So it's a tough decision. I think Dana might have the edge with his experience.
Julie?
So we're giving our preference at the end here? Is that what?
No,
is
you
that
don't
the
have to.
intent?
Yeah,
You
it's
don't
just
have
really,
to.
we want to hear some of the positive comments.
Yes.
From both.
Yes, from both of them.
Yes. I thought, I loved Tyler's energy and his enthusiasm and how to get to yes. Not 99 ways to no. But Dana did, especially in the interviews in front of the council that evening, definitely came across with more experience with government and how it works, with how city government works and projects that he's worked on. And as Mr. Butterfield stated, I also liked that he had development experience and would have experience for the downtown. I liked when they presented to the chamber and to the employees. I thought they both did great. I think it was a toss-up at that point for me. I think they're both good candidates.
Mike?
Well, you're right, they're both very good candidates. Looking at the matrix and how all that lined up, that was kind of a interesting one to say the least. But these guys, they've really done a good job of presenting their skills on both sides. I personally would go with an individual who I feel, and I'm a little bit concerned about Dana and his moving. So I am so shell-shocked with this community and the number of commissioners that we have had in the last 8 years. And I want somebody that I can see it's going to say, you know what, I'm going to be here for the long haul. And the information that was brought to us and to the public is, Mr. Brooks is interested in bringing his family, and his family's interested in coming. Not to say that Mr. Schoning's family isn't, but all I'm saying is Mr. Brooks, have interviewed with him and Mr. Schoning, but Mr. Brooks just seems to have more roots for me. He's going to stay here. I believe he's staying here for the long haul. And but like I said, I know that Mr. Schoning has the background, but I'll tell you what, military installations are they're also called cities. They're called cities for a reason. And I'll get into that later. But when you look into the military installation and exactly what goes on in them, I can put you into Willmar and I can put you in a military installation and I can show you the same players, almost back to back. So there isn't a lot of difference. And he has been a leader. It's a lot of the stuff I saw over in the Middle East. He's done some amazing stuff. Mr. Brooks has. Mr. Schoning has been excellent as well. But I hate interviews. I've been in so many of them, you hate to send somebody packing. But I just thank them for their time, all the time they've come here, and all their families' issues coming here. But my preference would be Mr. Brooks.
Okay, Justin?
My preference is Dana. I think he has the leadership, the experience, the knowledge the city needs to take the next step forward. I think from the very first time we read his application to the first interview, the second interview, his sessions with the public, his sessions with the staff, every step of the way, I think he's been really consistent in speaking about his value of teamwork, his value of including a lot of folks. And I mean, I think that's the type of leadership that we need at City Hall. He's the leader that we need for the place that we are today. His experience in city government, especially that background in economic development, can really help us with a lot of the projects that are before us. I think he can help us achieve the growth that we're looking for. I think the feedback that I've heard directly from him, the feedback that I've received from the members of the community, and maybe most importantly, the members of the staff, the city staff, I think it's a clear and straightforward decision tonight.
Vicki?
Oh, this is really hard because I liked both of them. They're both great people. I like Tyler Brooks because I feel like he's a natural leader, and I could see him being really good with staff and really enabling, the department heads and everyone beneath them to do good jobs. And I think that he would fit in really nice in our community too. But I also like Dana, and I liked when we had the interview, when he stood up and he just knew what he was talking about because he's already done those things. So that's what I liked about both of them. They're great people.
Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe it's been mentioned already, but that's kind of what makes it so difficult is the disparities between the two actually, and a lot of times that makes it an easier decision. But I believe in this case it makes it a more difficult decision because you're coming at different philosophical thoughts and standpoints when you're trying to make your decisions. I believe that both individuals carry their strengths and carry them well. I believe Tyler, in terms of organization and leadership skills and qualities and the ability to learn and adapt and implement ideas and functions and whatnot, the training that's been instilled into him and that he's now relaying on in his current positioning, I believe that would be super beneficial to running our organization, which is the city. I also believe that he would be a great fit into the community. I believe that, this is an area where he could flourish long-term and create those really deep roots that create for great communities. On the other side of the coin, you have a candidate in Dana that is well experienced, very knowledgeable, and very charismatic, quick and able to answer questions when it comes to current projects, current concerns, current areas of city government that we are tasked with making decisions. And so for me, it's kind of it's the debate in my mind of one candidate that we know exactly what we're getting, and we know exactly what they have and what their experience has been, and we can be confident in that. And the other candidate, we know all of their exemplary qualities, and we can see all of the makings of something that is going to be great. But is that something that we want to, I'll just say it, but is that something we want to risk? Because they're, by the candidate's own admission, those are areas that may take some time to develop. So I believe both strong candidates. I believe that both both possess the ability to lead and to collaborate and to do all of those things. I believe that of the two candidates, I believe that Dana is and would be able to hit the ground running with the challenges that we are facing in Willmar, in the community, in terms of some of the big projects and the big things that we have going and that are coming right around the corner. I believe he'd be able to walk in on day one and know how to adapt and move to those. But again, I got to go back the other direction, and I do believe that Tyler would be quick to adapt to those. So for myself, I'm still torn. However, I see that as a positive. I like being torn, actually, because that tells me that we have really good candidates, and I like to hear other perspectives at the table before forming that final decisional opinion, because as the mayor stated, I do believe that being able to come together, maybe not unilaterally, but to be able to coalesce around one idea is also a very positive thing and a powerful message to send to the community. So thank you for the time.
Audrey.
Thank you. I have found myself going back and forth over the time frame and saying, well, I'm going to wait for the next piece of information, and I'm going to wait for the next piece of information. And it's here, and I think it's been fun to listen to council members go around the room to, I think, elaborate on their strengths. It was great to meet with both of them. I heard a commitment from both candidates that their commitment to be in Willmar, to be here with their families, the reasons that they want to come. I heard an explanation for why Dana changed jobs. I was comfortable with hearing some of that information, and when I look at what we've gone through in the city of Willmar, there's been a variety of reasons for why we've had different administrators too, so I understand that. I think that I'm still at the point that experience is important. We're a large enough city that I don't know that we have, that we can take the time to train someone completely in city government. And so I've struggled with that. Mr. Brooks is his energy, his leadership is obvious. But I think for me, I am comfortable that Dana would be a good choice for this community at this time. And I believe there would be a commitment, and it will take a commitment from us to help either candidate to be successful. I think that as I think it was Andrew who said he'll be able to hit the ground running. And so that's where I'm at with my choice.
Julie, I apologize to you. I was not expecting everybody to kind of give their favorite, and I kind of backed you off. And if you want to do that at this time, I would certainly entertain that conversation.
Okay.
Apologize.
To give you a barometer, and I was laying the line. I would lean towards Mr. Schoening just for the city government experience and working with other department heads and other projects that he's worked on that really gave him a lot of strength and a lot of experience that I think will work well with our city administrator.
Mr. Gramis, I'm going to put you on the spot. You had the opportunity to sit through all the interviews, and you've reviewed the materials. And any comments that you would want to make in regards to either the backgrounds that you were able to observe, any of the stuff that was sent to you, and then any observations that you have as well?
Mr. Mayor and City Council members, you all have commented on your perceived strengths of both individuals, and I honestly have really nothing to add on the topic, because collectively you all have received all the same information and heard, their interview process with the public and with yourselves, and some of you sat in on the department head interview meeting and the chamber interview meeting, and I think you are doing an excellent job, and I'll plead the fifth from here on out.
Thank you. Ms. Hemmenover, any comments that you would like to make at this point?
Just a couple things. Audrey, you brought up a very good point, and I think we just need to address that again. No matter what candidate is chosen, the council does have to support that candidate that's going to be brought forward. There is going to be a learning curve, no matter who's coming in here. First of all, they need to know the culture. They need to understand the projects. So there is going to be some time commitment from the council to make sure that you're educating whoever it is that's coming in. So when you talk about if it's going to be Dana or if it's going to be Tyler, they both are going to have a learning curve. And that's one thing that I asked both of them. And I just said, are you up for that? Because I said, there's a lot of things that are going on. They've got the city hall that is in discussion, and possibly a building that's going to maybe go up, or renovation. And I said there's a lot of staff that is retiring or leaving, and there's some holes that have to be filled. And are you nervous? Are you nervous about having to work maybe 12, 15 hours a day for the first year? And they're like, no, we understand that. And both of them said, we're used to that. We get it. So there's not any reservation with either one of them. Tyler went back and asked his mentor. He said, I know I can do this. And talked to his mentor and a couple of his supervisors. And they all said, of course you can. What you were in charge of and told to do, and the amount of people that you have worked with, you have always been successful. You have not failed. You have never failed in any of your assignments that you have done. And that's pretty telling, with him, that he continues to be promoted no matter where he's at. Dana, when I called his reference, I called the supervisor, and I personally called because I wanted to get the information. And he worked at one of the cities that we're talking about that Dana left after a couple years. He worked there himself. And he said it was not a good environment for them to be at. And he explained the environment that he was under, Dana was under, and Dana left. And that made me feel much better understanding it coming from someone else too. He did say that Dana does a phenomenal job here. And everything that went through with the pandemic and everything, he was doing a phenomenal job. He even said if he were to leave, the likelihood of their council approving him to be the next administrator would be very high. And he would strongly recommend that he would be appointed the position. So both of them have those leadership qualities, and both of them are well respected by their employer.
Okay, well, I haven't made a comment here, and I will. And again, I'll just thank Baker Tilly and you personally, Patty, for the work that you've done. You brought us two exceptional candidates. The council has, I believe, spoken, as there was a game show that talked about that. I believe we're to the point where we're getting consensus on a decision. I think both candidates can do a very good job, will serve us very well. And I think that this is a council decision, and in the event of a tie vote, the mayor does have the ability to change that vote and cast a vote if that is the way it ends up. But so I'm not sure if there's, at this point, I would consider it a privilege to work with either of the candidates. And so at this point, I believe that there would be it'd be in order for a motion to come from the floor. Someone's comfortable to do that. Additional discussion.
I'll make a motion that we start negotiations with Dana Schoening.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Just seeking clarification, I think we had been told before that it would require 6 votes, 6 affirmative votes. But if I'm correct, that is when we approve the contract, not when we go into negotiations. Is that correct? Thank you, Mayor.
Yes.
Okay.
Additional discussion. Yes, I believe I had said that. Mr. Scott, did you want to make a comment? Robert, did you want to make a comment? Okay. Councilmember Butterfield.
No, I don't. I'm sorry, Mayor, council members. This was the one moment when my connection was not fantastic. So. I believe the question was about the vote to make the appointment for city administrator. And under the charter, once that appointment is to be made, it requires 5 votes of the council. But it does provide that the mayor, if any candidate is 1 vote short, that the mayor could supply the 5th vote. But it is also correct that tonight's vote is simply to provide direction to staff in Baker Tilly to begin negotiations with the preferred candidate. So we are not to that stage yet.
Okay, so we have a motion that has been introduced to direct staff and Baker Tilly to work on an agreement with Mr. Schoening for our next city administrator. Additional discussion. All in favor of the motion as presented, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
All right.
That motion does pass. At this time, I would ask the council to consider a group of council members to work with Baker Tilly to come up with the negotiating strategy to enter into that agreement. And it would be nice to, I believe we were talking about maybe a couple council members to assist with that process.
Mayor, I have worked with the Labor Relations Committee in the past on certain things, and the mayor, is it appropriate to ask the vice chair, Michael O'Brien, and Vicki Davis, as the Labor Relations, to work with me and the mayor to put together the contract?
If that's okay with the council?
Well, would this be next week?
This would be, what I would be doing is contacting the candidate. I would be pulling the contract, working with Brian to pull the contract together, and then for us to have a conference call to start putting the details together.
Okay, because I will be gone next week.
Okay.
So, someone else.
I will have to go into too. Julie's raising her hand, but I'm willing to, so.
I'm also willing to fill in.
I'm available.
Those meetings would be during the day, Tom. Are you available during the day?
Oh, yeah, then that puts me out.
Right.
You have to be after 5:30.
So how about we have Councilmember Osmus and Councilmember O'Brien? Is there any objection to that?
No.
Okay. Is there a motion for that? Do we need a motion for that?
That would be city attorney's.
Robert?
call. I would think you could, because you are, in essence.
Well, they're being empowered to make
Right.
decisions
You're
on your
assigning them to
council.
do, perform a function, so I would.
Is there a motion for that?
So moved.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to have Councilmember O'Brien and Councilmember Osmus work with Baker Tilly to establish the parameters of the contract. Additional discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Those opposed? That motion passes. Next, I would like to, who am I going to turn this to? Consideration of a need for an interim city administrator. With this in mind, we're looking at a minimum of 45 days before Mr. Schoening would be able to start with us. And depending upon how the negotiations go, that would probably start on June 7th, if we can get everything done between now and June 7th. So that would be the time frame that we would be looking at. And so at that time, I think between our city administrator resignation and the June 7th meeting, I believe we have 3 business days. I think staff can handle that internally. But what I would like to see is I'd like to see Councilmember Nelson chair a group that would look at bringing a recommendation forward to the June 7th meeting to make a recommendation on what we do for the interim city administrator, if you're willing to do that, Councilmember Nelson.
I'm willing to do that. What's a group?
That would be up to this body to decide.
Okay, thank you.
So this group, so the leader of that group would be Councilmember Nelson to handle that. And again, if you have the time available to do that, again, this is going to have to be functioned within the next week. So are the council members that are willing to help with that? Councilmember Osk. Additional council members that are willing to help with that?
I just have a comment.
Go ahead.
I would think Finance Director Okens should be able to handle being the interim city administrator. I'll make that motion.
Okay, there's a motion. Motion been made by Councilmember Fagerly, seconded by Councilmember Butterfield to appoint our acting, or our Finance Director, Mr. Okens, as the interim city administrator. Discussion. Councilmember Nelson.
Having served as chair of the Finance Committee, I don't know how you would ask Mr. Okens to do that at this point in time with the department and the needs of the department right now. I think that we are lucky. We've got a lot of things going on between bonding and all of those things. I think his department is running short also, and I think that there is a continuity between keeping the finance department intact and the checks and balances with management and financing. So I would speak against doing that at this time. I think that that would put us in a deficit, I think, with all of the things right now versus just in the administrative area. So I will be voting no.
Additional comments? Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I certainly, I guess I understand the proposal. I understand the motion, and I can appreciate that because I do believe that Mr. Okens possesses the knowledge and the ability to get the job done correctly and to be able to handle that. However, I think, just as Councilmember Nelson mentioned, there may be just a little bit of difficulty when it comes to continuity. We have so much going on, and we have, specifically with financial ties right now, that I worry because I believe that Mr. Okens is the captain of our financial ship, so to speak, and I would be just a little bit hesitant to pull him from that role in another direction. I've seen in other instances when that has been done and it has not gone so well, not pertaining to he himself, but as mentioned, I believe he does an excellent job in running our financial aspects of the city, and I would not want to pull away from that. So I would be a little bit reluctant on that front.
Additional comments? Councilmember Osmus?
Just a technical question. What about two signers, co-signers? If he is the finance chair and would be acting city administrator, who would be the second signature?
The council would have to determine who that would be.
Okay.
That'd be no different than what we're going to do on the 3-day window. Yeah. Councilmember O'Brien.
So how long would this be? What are you talking about?
Well, potentially 45 days from the 7th of June, potentially.
Potentially. Okay.
Because I would imagine that Mr. Schoening will not tender his resignation until he's an offer from us.
Right.
And
Exactly.
You know, so he's not going to do that.
Right.
And then he's told us, you know, originally he said someplace between 30 and 60 days, and I think it was confirmed today. I think you said in
Well,
your report
it-
about.
About 45 days. It could be a little bit longer, just that 60 days. It all depends on the housing and things like that.
Okay. Well, can I ask this question? Mr. Okens, 45 days, not to put you on the spot, but
I don't believe that question is.
I can't do that?
Well, I don't think we should put our staff in that position.
Well, why would we try to put him in that position and not know he wants it?
Oh, that's fine, go ahead.
I mean, it's yes or no. I mean, I'm not trying to put him in a position. I'm just trying to find out. I don't want to put you into something and vote positive for you if you don't want it. I mean, you know what your ability, what you've got coming up, and I got all the faith in the world that if you say you can handle it, you can handle it. But I want to know if this is what you feel is right.
Mr. Okens.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, I will do what the council wants me to do. I would not be the total person. I would rely on the city staff in all the other departments. As you know, engineering is going to be short. You're going to be addressing that tonight. And so I feel I can handle it, but it's entirely a council decision.
Councilmember Osmus. I'm sorry. Councilmember Butterfield called the Councilmember Osmus.
I do have to run and go pick up my son. I'll be back as soon as I can. I don't know if I can vote now or not.
Mr. Scott? The question has not yet been called.
Yeah, Mayor, members of the council, Councilmember Butterfield, unfortunately, it can't vote before the vote is recorded by the full council. So it's up to the council if you're ready to vote on this motion quickly, or if not, unfortunately, Mr. Butterfield is free to make a comment about whether he supports it or not, but couldn't formally vote on the motion if he's not present.
Councilmember Osmus.
My only comment was going to be that I thought the committee would look at its options, and asking Mr. Okens the possibility was probably part of their responsibility. That was my only comment. I will call the vote.
There's a motion to call a question. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to call the question. Is this a simple motion, or is this a, Mr. Scott, is this a simple motion?
Yes, Mayor, council, simple motion.
Question.
All in favor?
What are we voting on?
We're voting on calling the question. All in favor of calling the question signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed?
Aye.
That,
I thought we were doing it for
7-1?
him to be able to vote.
okay, 7-1 is that vote. Now we are calling the question is on the table, the motion on the table is to have Mr. Okens serve as the interim city administrator. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
All right.
Osk.
No.
Davis.
No.
Plowman.
No.
Nelson.
No.
Fagerly.
Aye.
Osmus.
No.
That motion fails. I am requesting that Councilmember Nelson serve a committee of herself and Councilmember Osk to bring recommendations to the June 7th meeting for the position of interim city administrator. I am looking for a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Osmus.
I would just like to hear some more options, so I wanted to know what the committee could come up with.
What I would, and I'll give my opinion, but I'll defer to Councilmember Nelson after I give my opinion, simply because I think Councilmember Nelson has a pretty good grasp on this, and that's why I was hoping she would chair this. I think that we should check with the League of Minnesota Cities. We have some applicants that had applied that are currently not working. We could check with them. We could check with city staff. My recommendation was going to be to have a conversation with Mr. Olkins and also Dr. Ramstead to see if they were interested in the positions, and also work with the Coalition of Greater Minnesota Cities to see if they have people. I think we have a number of great resources, and I would also like us to have Patty Baker, I shouldn't say Patty, Baker Tilley work with us through that process so that we can bring a well-rounded candidate for the council to consider. I have no preconceived ideas on who this should be, but I believe that there are some tremendous opportunities out there. The other thing is that, Mr. John Herron with the Municipal Utilities was a city administrator or city manager. We could tap into him and see if he would be willing to do something. I don't know if he would or not. That would take permission from the commission, of course, to do that. So I think there are a lot of options, and I'll defer at this point to Councilmember Nelson.
I don't know that I have anything else to say. I was not aware of this ahead of the meeting. So I'm willing to do that, and I think if individual council members want to express their opinion beyond what were said tonight, I would say reach out to one of us to do that. I just have one other question, and to just keep the continuity, I am simply curious if Mr. Gramitz would not be willing to stay on in some capacity, so we have an administrator until we make a decision on an interim administrator. And I think that was something that I had asked about before, and I thought that he was something that we could talk about. And so that's a question that I have right now. I'm uncomfortable with even just a few days with us not making that decision right now. So is that something that we could ask him right now?
Go ahead.
All right, I'm asking.
So if I heard you right, I guess I've made, definitive plans, to, move back, and I can obviously, again, as we've talked about with the Public Works Director, I'll answer any calls, and I can run up here at any time, but, in a short period, I'm always available. I could, but I'm going to have to say, unless it's an emergency, I'll be back in New Ulm. So you can call me, and if I need be, I can run up. I've had discussions with, most of the department heads, and we'll continue until next Wednesday to keep them geared up so that they know what needs to be done and for the next council meeting. So I guess at this point, I would say the department heads can, currently operate as they are until the 7th or thereabouts. But if you want me to help, I can offer assistance, but I'm not going to be here every day.
I understand that, but I also understood why you wanted to have Mr. Christensen maintain that. And I think
Yep.
for me, that's the same thing that I think the city needs right now, is that we need someone in the administrator role until we make a decision on the
Yep.
assistant. And if that's what you're agreeing to do, I think that would be great. And I don't know if do we need a motion to do that? I would make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to retain our current city administrator as our interim city administrator, and that is until,
We appoint, or until an interim can take over. Is that
That'd be
Approval?
fine.
Okay.
until a more permanent interim could take over. So it's open-ended. Robert, do you understand that?
I do, Mayor, but I do think you had a motion on the table that, unless I missed it, hasn't been resolved yet.
You are
For
correct.
the committee?
That is correct. That's correct. Yes. We didn't.
Okay.
I asked for questions, but we didn't vote. All in favor of the motion that establishing the committee, Councilmember
I just
Davis?
have a question. If we do that, how is he compensated for that? Since it would be pretty part-time.
Prorated.
I guess I would just suggest that we have a contract for the hourly rate for the Public Works Director. We can break that down in the same format as City Attorney has prepared for that position, and we'll just fill in the blanks with the different information.
That's the
Okay.
other motion.
Right. All in favor of establishing the committee to bring back a recommendation on June 7th, or when they have it completed, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have a motion to have City Administrator Gramitz continue to serve as the interim city administrator, and a contract to be drafted reflecting the hourly compensation as your current hourly compensation rate, Mr. Gramitz?
Yeah, it'll just be on a hourly basis. If I work an hour, that's, a day, that's what it'll be, so.
Sure. Entertain that motion?
Yes.
Councilmember Oz.
And this is just until a more permanent interim city administrator would be found.
Correct.
Thank you.
Looking for a second.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Next, we have assignment to public. Patty, thank you for your work. I think you've got a lot of work ahead of you in the next week.
Yeah.
I guess a question that I have, Patty, is that if you're going to work with a couple council members to bring that recommendation, is there an adjustment to your contract that we have to do? Okay. Thank you. Thanks for your work. Safe travels home. Thank you. Next, we have an assignment of Public Works Director duty to Gary Manzer. Mr. Gramitz.
Mayor and city council members, I always tend to make sure there's always, a motion if need be, and sometimes I get a little shell shocked, but technically, this particular action could be done by the city administrator to assign duties. It does not need the city council motion, but if you are in agreement that this is the step that we want to proceed with, I will take care of that tomorrow.
Okay. Looking for a motion.
I would make the motion to assign the interim Public Works Director duties to our Public Works Superintendent, Mr. Gary Manzer.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded numerous times. Additional discussion. Councilmember Plowman, followed by Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is an excellent opportunity. I was pleased to see this on our agenda. It's an excellent opportunity to lift up, raise up one of our exemplary employees throughout many different areas and years of working within the Public Works Department. We've all heard and been involved with Mr. Manzer. You hear fantastic feedback from staff. You hear fantastic feedback from the public. All the different individuals that have sat on all the committees that have interacted with Mr. Manzer always have positive things to say. I go out of my way. I did just last week to talk to a Public Works crew that was working out front of my office building, and all of them had just many great things to say about Mr. Manzer. So I'm pleased to be able to to make this motion, and I know he'll do a fantastic job, and as he always has. Thank you.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you. I'm supportive of this also. My question is just the motion that we made last meeting for Mr. Christensen. Does that just go away because it didn't happen, or do we need to resend that? Or
Mr. Mayor and city council members, This assignment is for the day-to-day approval of timesheets and any signatures that are required on site. The contract we have with the current Public Works Director for part-time work, that's for the more engineering design questions that need attention. So they're really kind of two separate things. One is day-to-day and the other one is more organizational, emergency, reactionary to engineering issues. So they're not the same thing. One is on site, one is not, and that's the difference. So technically, this is probably, the interim Public Works Director is probably maybe not the right title. They're just going to be, the Public Works Superintendent, Mr. Manzer, will just be assigned the office duties of this position until such time as we fill it, which we hope is not too far in the distant future because the posting ends, I believe, next week. So we should be looking at filling the Public Works Director position in the near future.
Thank you for that clarification.
Just some comments. All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. We are adjourned.